Hello, welcome to Quarter TV. In this video we're going to look at how to join clauses and sentences together using conjunctions in Russian. Stay tuned. So this is lesson 37 of our online program, Let's Speak Russian, which is about conjunctions. Very important words because they start adding a bit of structure, a bit of form to your discourse. And that's very useful. It's very handy because it allows you to start linking things together, giving reasons, explaining yourself, and it really does make your language flow. And that's what we want. So we're going to look at that today. So just as a reminder, conjunctions are words that join sentences or clauses of a sentence together. Sometimes they're referred to as connectives, but in the world of grammar, we usually say conjunctions. That's more correct, let's say. And Russian conjunctions, just like in English, can be split into categories, and we do also call them coordinating and subordinating. What those are, you'll see in just a moment. We can go into even more detail and start saying that we have connective conjunctions, which are ones like and or also, which pretty much connect things together that have a similar meaning, or you're adding on detail. Separative is where we have things like or, either, otherwise things like that where we're separating or splitting things into two really. Adversative is when we have things like but, although, however, when we're making a contradiction maybe. Declaratory or explanatory is when you're explaining yourself, giving reasons, things like because. And finally, we have complex ones or comparative ones, and they're just a separate group really, which are made up of several words, and they very often explain things like consequences. Now, of course, you don't need to know any of these words here. None of these terms are important at all. No, of course not. This is just a bit of a side note, just in case anyone's interested. So let's now take a look at these conjunctions then. We'll start off with coordinating ones. And those are quite simply conjunctions that join two clauses together, both of which can be independent clauses on themselves. So they each make sense on their own. So if we have two parts of a sentence, and if these two parts make sense on themselves, they are two parts of a sentence in their own right, then a conjunction, a connective word, joining the two parts together will be coordinating. Let's just see some examples. First of all, we have I, no, или, a. These are the four most important coordinating conjunctions in Russian. You probably know most of them already. I means and. Let's take a look at an example sentence. Он говорит по-немецки и по-французски. Он говорит по-немецки и по-французски. What does this mean? Yes, exactly. He speaks German and French. Now, what we can also do with this conjunction I is if we put I in between говорит and немецкий to get он говорит и по-немецки и по-французски, so we have I twice, then this conveys the meaning of both. So he speaks both German and French. So use I twice in a sentence to mean something like both. No means but. And this is one of those adversative conjunctions where you're either giving a contradiction or something, maybe you're comparing something, you are introducing something new, maybe that's unexpected. It has different roles. You know when we use it in English, it's pretty much the same in Russian, really. Она хочет работать, но не может. What does this mean? Yes, of course. She wants to work, but she can't. Yes, работать we know means to work. Может is third person singular conjugation of мочь. Very important modal verb that means to be able to. Она хочет работать, но не может. The next one is или, which means or. An example. Вы куда едете? В магазин или на работу? Вы куда едете? Where are you going? Remember here that we're not using где. You can't say вы где едете if you're asking someone to where they're going, where is their destination. You can say вы где едете, i.e. where are you located at the moment, the answer to which maybe could be I am driving on a road or, I don't know, on a motorway. But if you're asking to where is your destination, where are you heading to, remember it's куда. В магазин, to the shop, или на работу, or to work. Okay? And finally, we've done lots of work on this already. It's something like and or but, or it has different roles in dialogues and things like that. We've seen all of that already. I can't really think of many good examples with this one really, but let's just say ты спрашиваешь, а я отвечаю. So look, in English I've said and I answer. In Russian you could also say и я отвечаю. Ты спрашиваешь, и я отвечаю. That also makes perfect sense. That's fine. It's just is just a different option here, really. It's a bit more, it's adding that slight element of contrast here. So you're asking a question. The fact that I'm answering, these two verbs, asking and answering, they are, antonyms really, we can say, and that's why would be used here to show that contrast. But that's fine. You can also say I. You'll get used to when to use just by reading and listening to Russian media and text and so on, as I keep saying. As you know already, is very often used in questions. А почему? А когда? А где? And you'll very often see quite young Russian children asking their questions, or teachers, or whoever it may be, questions all the time. And it's very annoying, it's very irritating when you get a child constantly asking, а почему? А когда? А где? А кто? А зачем? Things like that. It's really annoying. And this is just so common among children who just keep asking questions over and over again, and they just want to get an answer. So а почему, just a very common thing. But why? How come? But how come? But why is this happening? And what? And who? And when? That kind of tone, really. Okay, now let's have a look at some subordinating conjunctions. And this is when we have things like main clauses and dependent clauses, or subordinate clauses. That's the other word, really. And the subordinate clause is one that cannot make sense on its own. It is not independent. It does not exist as a separate part of sentence that makes sense on its own. And we get these in complex sentences mainly. So let's have a look at some examples. Потому что, чтобы, and поэтому. First of all, потому что means because. This is the simplest way to give a reason in Russian. There are other words that mean because, but for now this is probably the best one to use. And it means because pretty much. Let's take a look at an example sentence. Мне нравится Москва, потому что она красивая. Мне нравится Москва, потому что она красивая. What does this mean? We saw the construction мне нравится last time. It means I like. So I like Moskva. You should hopefully remember that this is Moscow. I like Moscow because it's a beautiful city, or it's beautiful. Now notice here I've said она. We always in Russian, whenever we're referring to a noun, we always refer to its gender using the third person singular pronouns he, she, or it if it's neuter. If the thing that you're referring to, whatever it is feminine, do not say it, say she. If the thing that you're referring to is masculine, do not say it, say he, always. You have to get used to that in Russian. You can't just say это, which means this. No, don't do that. You have to say she is beautiful. Moscow, it's a she. Likewise, if you're, I don't know, what other feminine nouns do you know? Let's just say a pharmacy. If you're describing a pharmacy, you have to say она большая, она новая. Not это новая, not это большая. No. Always use the corresponding third person singular personal pronouns when you're referring to nouns using pronouns. Okay, be very careful there. Anyway, another side note, that doesn't matter for now, just keep that in mind, please. The next subordinating conjunction is что, and you know already that on its own this means what. However, as a conjunction, this actually means that. Example, я думаю, что это очень хорошая машина. Я думаю, что это очень хорошая машина. I think that this is a very good car. So it's very often used with verbs like думать, which means to think. We also saw verbs like считать already, which means to count, or in this context it would mean to have an opinion, to believe, or to estimate, maybe you could say. I think that. Я думаю, что. Very useful phrase there. Now look, I've just told you not to say это. Well, we have a completely different situation here where you're saying something like, I think that this car here, and where you're referring to a specific car that's standing right in front of you, or maybe it's not physically present, but you're on about a very specific car, in which case you would say это. Please don't worry about the difference between these two sentences for now. That's a topic for a separate video. Just please get the idea of что and потому что and all these other conjunctions. Notice that we put a comma after the verb, or, well, before the subordinating conjunction. So before что you put a comma, before потому что you put a comma, and so on and so on. Чтобы is the next one. It's all one word and it means so that, or in order to. On its own, it's just so that. Чтобы хорошо жить, надо работать. Чтобы хорошо жить, надо работать. Could you translate this, please? And yes, it means in order to live well, you need to work, or one has to work. And yeah, in English we would say in order to, you wouldn't say so that you live well. Well, actually, no, you could probably say that, couldn't you? But yeah, you could also use this word in the middle of a sentence where you've got one clause and then you say so that and then whatever. Or in order to, where you're basically explaining the effects of something or the result of something. Very, very useful word. And finally, we have поэтому. Поэтому, which means for this reason, therefore, as a result, things like that. Они не знали, поэтому спросили. Они не знали, поэтому спросили. They didn't know, so they asked. Yeah, there we go. Another translation is so. They didn't know, and for the reason that they didn't know, they asked. They asked a question because they didn't know. You could also put it in the other way around. Они спросили, потому что не знали. That would also work perfectly. They asked because they didn't know. So yeah, поэтому is just it's just the inverse really of потому что. So please learn these 8 conjunctions. They are so useful. They really do help you speak more fluently. In the future, we'll look at some more complicated ones, but for now, this is your basis. Please now do some practice. I'd like to give you some homework. If you're all happy with this, could you please view the attached document in the description? And it contains all the vocab we've covered so far, all the way from lesson 12, where we first started looking at verbs, all up to now. They have all the verbs there, all the nouns, all the adjectives, everything that we've looked at, all from the vocabulary boost as well. Make sure that you know all of it and make sure that you can conjugate all verbs in all tenses. If you have any problems with that, you always know you can email me or ask in the comments. That's perfectly fine. And using the conjunctions that we've seen today, try and just construct some sentences. Make up your own. And again, if you're not sure if they're right or not, feel free to email me. That's fine. And yeah, that's it really. Any other questions, you know where to ask them. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for liking and subscribing. See you next time. Goodbye.